I called my older brother who has a 6-year-old kid, my nephew. I called him up the day after the American Rescue Plan was passed, and I said, hey, do you know about the child tax credit? He asked me, what are you talking about? No idea.
This is one of the biggest fights of our lives.
It could cut child poverty in half. This is briefly from the ground up.
So the refundable child tax credit is a clunky name for a hugely important idea, which is to provide direct cash support to parents to care for, raise, support, and educate children, our country's most valuable resource. So I'm Deepak Bhargava. I ran Community Change for 16 years. I was part of the campaign in the early 2000s to fight back against the punitive 1996 welfare law. And as part of that campaign, we took on a major battle to win a refundable child tax credit, and we partly won.
I'm Kate Kahan, and I'm the Legislative and Advocacy Director for Community Change. Reducing poverty is a lifelong part of my career, and that extends to having worked on the child tax credit 20 years ago and have been working on it ever since. So I was a young mom and a welfare mom when I was in college. And at the time, the Clinton welfare reform passed and impacted my life greatly. I got really activated around what was happening to other low-income parents at the time, because our whole world shifted and we were being encouraged to go to work and not go to school, and the rules were all changing about what we were able to do.
So we set our target on the 2002 reauthorization of the federal welfare law. We had a very conservative Congress, a Republican House, a Republican president. Things looked very, very bleak. But the grassroots groups that Community Change worked with at the time decided we were going to fight for what low-income people in this country needed and deserved.
It was a horrible debate that was just really criminalizing poor people and had so many horrible stereotypes about who was poor and who was on welfare.
So we saw an opportunity. And that opportunity, ironically, was going to be the proposal George Bush was pushing for massive tax cuts for the richest Americans and for corporations. We opposed those tax cuts, but we knew that some legislation was likely to make its way through Congress. So we launched a campaign shortly after the election in 2001 to fight to make sure that the tax legislation being considered by Congress would include a fully refundable child tax credit. And we saw our organizing leverage as really being in the Senate Finance Committee, because that was chaired by a Democrat, Senator Max Baucus from Montana, and there was a very strong grassroots organization, welfare rights organization in Montana, led by low-income women, that was prepared to push him for this provision.
And it helped us that the same senators, including our very own, who was the chair of the committee that was making the decisions on the tax credit, was also going to be making the decisions on the welfare bill. Partly because of my connection with the Center for Community Change, I was like the spokesperson for welfare moms for a while, testifying in Congress, speaking at all the rallies, like doing the press conferences, and being able to put a face to the issue and put a name to the welfare mom.
And in what many people consider to be a miracle, in a very conservative right-wing era, we partly prevailed. Congress did include a partly refundable child tax credit in the tax bill, and that delivered $8 billion a year to low-income working families in the United States. The largest expansion of anti-poverty programs in many, many years. It happened quickly. It happened because of, and only because of, a determined, ferocious grassroots campaign that put the heat on Congress to deliver for low-income parents and their kids.
I just saw the ability for people to come together and have their lived experience inform the solutions and do smart advocacy.
Now you fast forward 20 years and you can see the immense policy and ideological revolution that's taken place.
We are still standing here today, stepping into our power and fighting for equality, for one fair wage, and for equal justice.
So I'm Dorian Warren. I'm Co-President of Community Change and Community Change Action. And I've been connected to the movement around ending poverty in America, I think my entire adult life. I like to think that I have picked up the torch from Community Change, which fought for the expansion of the child tax credit back in the late 90s and resulted in a big expansion in 2001. There are a few things happening today to make the child tax credit permanent and effective.
And really what we're talking about is a way to make sure that there is a stream of money that is going from the federal government to families in need.
My older brother, first of all, he didn't even believe me when I said, do you want, say, $300 a month for your kid or $250 a month for your kid? And he was like, no, I don't believe you. So I basically walked him through all the things he needs to do.
It is time to make a difference in this country. We want people out of poverty. We want people getting the help they need.
Many of my neighbors are struggling financially right now and struggling to be able to support their families, and not just my neighbors, but many of my friends and family as well. A little bit of an extra social safety net would go a long way.
Under the expansion of it with the American Rescue Plan, it means that one, so many more people are eligible, so you actually don't have to have a job or income to be eligible to receive the child tax credit. Two, it's monthly and periodic. If you know you have, say, $250 or $300 a month coming in, that affords you the stability to be able to buy basic necessities. The child tax credit is cash to you to use however you see fit for your child. So no restrictions.
As the sole provider for my household, it's been challenging. It was already challenging before the pandemic hit, but the pandemic has made it that much worse.
For me, affordable access to quality child care would mean returning back to the workforce. It would mean having more financial stability for my family.
This is so necessary to extend beyond 2021 for a number of reasons. One is, as we know from some of the research, it could cut child poverty in half. That's a huge deal, and particularly in Black, Indigenous, Latinx communities, where child poverty is roughly double the white poverty rate. That would just be a game changer. Implementation is super important. So we got to inform people so it's implemented well. It's so important that people actually feel it, that they receive the benefit, that they feel the impact on their own lives. And then, of course, we have to make sure people stay engaged civically.
This is one of the biggest fights of our lives, is to make sure that the provisions that Congress put into place that were signed by President Biden are not only renewed, but enshrined in our tax code and made permanent, so that there's a permanent, unconditional cash support for parents and for families.
Because sometimes we need to raise the floor so that everyone can have equal opportunity, but we need to break the ceiling because there should be no limit to what we can achieve.